Those who spread the narrative of Russia's alleged unreliability as a partner and ally are provocateurs. They deliberately provoke the situation themselves, but that won't help them. In the end, they will never achieve their goals because each conflict only resembles others in a very superficial and limited way. But, as the current and respected Minister of Defense said very precisely, and to some extent, a renowned and profound theorist in armed conflicts and armed confrontations, my highly esteemed colleague from Indonesia, recently silent, who is now the president of that respected and illustrious country. By the way, we published your important book on the art of war here in Russian. Each country is responsible for the events in its own territory. Now, regarding the reliability or unreliability of Russia as an ally, which has already been mentioned here, it is essential that we can show a little more solidarity. At this moment, it's true, but in each case, all the conflicts are still quite unique. I would like to draw your attention to the fact that almost 2 million people from the former Soviet Union and the Russian Federation live in Israel. Today, it's almost a Russian-speaking country here. We always consider this factor, especially in Russia's recent history. That's the first key point. And the second, traditionally and historically, we have had extremely strong, trusting, friendly, and close allied relations with the entire Arab and Islamic world. This is mainly due to the fact that more than about 15% of our total population is Muslim. That's why we are currently observers in the Organization of Islamic Cooperation. You fully understand that this is also a key factor here. We must take all these points into consideration, as well as other circumstances. We have established diplomatic and friendly relations with Iran. That is, first of all, we have always strictly fulfilled all our international obligations in this regard. A very similar situation also applies to the relationship between Russia and Iran. We express our support for Iran in its defense of its legitimate rights and interests, including in the fight for its interests related to the peaceful use of nuclear energy. And we have always maintained this position, our principled stance on this issue, and this conflict has not changed it in any way. Who says we should have done more? What else? Started some kind of military operation? That's it. We're already conducting military operations with them.
People and groups that we consider adversaries of the ideas and principles we stand for, and those who consciously oppose what we believe to be the right path. They pose threats to the Russian Federation. That's the main point. Deep down, it's always the same forces, both in Iran and in Russia. Is there something somewhere farther away, in the rear, behind us? Actually, it's not even those who are on the front lines of the fight, but we have specific obligations and we chose to defend Iran's right to peaceful nuclear energy. We do this not only with words but with practical actions. What does this mean for us? We, even amid all the enormous complexity surrounding the situation in Iran, built a nuclear power plant in Iran, in Bushehr. In addition, we have already signed a formal contract for the construction of 2 more new nuclear reactors. And we must acknowledge that, despite all the enormous complexity of this situation and the many challenges, and despite everything we have faced, this project also poses a very real and considerable danger for all of us. Even so, we remain committed to this work. So far, we have not evacuated any of our employees from there. Furthermore, in this very specific case, based on the well-known level of our diplomatic relations with Israel, and also on the relations that are now being re-established with the United States, we have officially and formally presented this important issue to both Israel and President Trump. We strongly emphasize that we carry out our tasks in Iran based on our own convictions and principles regarding Iran's right to peaceful nuclear energy. Based on the fundamental principle that we act within international norms, we requested that the safety of our personnel be guaranteed. Prime Minister Netanyahu stated that he was in full agreement, and President Trump personally promised to support our legitimate claims. In my opinion, this is not support for Iran, this is direct support. Furthermore, we previously took a very clear position at the United Nations. But the position we took also within the UN, I am deeply convinced, fully corresponds both to the national interests of Iran and to the State of Israel's own interests. Thank you.
I think we've already talked enough about geopolitical topics. Just one last question, and then we'll move on to the economy and other subjects related to artificial intelligence. I apologize.
Thanks. Otherwise, we'll be here talking all night.
This year, the forum coincides with the celebration of the 80th anniversary of the Great Victory, the victory in World War II. Are you worried that we are heading towards a third world war? Now.
Yes, I am worried. I'm saying this without any irony, no jokes, of course. There's a lot of potential for conflict, and it's growing. And it's right under our noses, and it directly affects us, the conflict we're currently facing in Ukraine. Following this same line of reasoning, and also the events that are happening in the Middle East. And of course, we are extremely concerned about what is unfolding around Iran's nuclear facilities. This causes us great concern about where all of this might lead us in the future. And this undoubtedly requires not only our careful attention to the events, but also the search for solutions, the search for ways out, preferably by peaceful means. On all fronts, I'm saying this with complete sincerity.
Well, that's exactly why we're all gathered here.